This review is made possible by Toyota of Naperville. Toyota of Naperville is the largest Toyota dealer in Illinois with hundreds of new and used vehicles in their inventory. Visit www.toyotaofnaperville.com or in person at 1488 West Ogden Avenue in Naperville, Illinois.
Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2021 Toyota CHR Nightshade. Up front is a 2.0 liter inline 4 and down below is a CVT. Now I'm excited to be driving this here CHR for two main reasons. First of all, I have not been the biggest fan of CHRs in the past. I drove, I believe, a 2019 CHR 2 years ago, and I didn't really like it. And so, we'll see if my opinions change or if this doubles down on them. The second reason I'm excited to be driving the CHR is because this is the Nightshade. Nightshade is a trim level that is offered on a couple of different Toyota products that basically just blacks the car out. Black wheels, black mirror caps. Makes it look a little bit cooler, a little bit different, a little bit more unique. And you know, I always love cars that are a little unique. Now, before we get on to the rest of the video, if you guys are interested in selling your car, please click the link in the description below. Cashforcars.com will buy your car with a salvage title, good title, running, non-running, whatever it is. Please go support the channel by clicking the link in the description below. You can get a fast and easy quote for free, and they will pick up your vehicle in less than 24 hours. So let's get back to that 2 liter inline 4. I'll put the horsepower and torque up on the screen. It is essentially a Corolla hatch engine, if you really want to look into it. And I will put the miles per gallon up on the screen as well. And that is a big selling point for me with this vehicle. However, this car does come with a CVT, which means continuously variable transmission. And that means that there aren't any real set gears in the transmission. And I am not the biggest fan of just CVTs in general. A lot of companies use CVTs. Kia uses CVTs. Subaru's been using CVTs for at least the last 10 years, probably longer. It's not my favorite style of transmission, although this isn't really a car that you're going to be driving spiritedly and taking down back roads and things like that. That's where CVTs really fall on their face. So day-to-day driving, like I'm doing right now out here on the test track, you don't really notice the CVT all that much. Last but not least, the CHR is front-wheel drive, and this has always bothered me, and it continues to bother me, the fact that there is no all-wheel drive CHR that is offered. If I am going to get a CUV, a compact SUV, something small like this, no matter what, anything that's an SUV or something with this amount of ground clearance, I think should at least be offered with all-wheel drive. Especially because in Chicago, we're expecting this any day now, and so I would much rather have all-wheel drive in that sort of weather than just front-wheel drive. With that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have two main gauges. On the left is my tachometer with coolant temperature down at the bottom, and on the right is my speedometer with fuel down at the bottom. So as I get a little display in the center, giving me a bunch of information that I'm scrolling through right now. I like this. Toyota does a pretty good job about giving you a lot of information, and the center screen is pretty colorful. You know, I have the green for the eco and blue and white and a darker blue for more background. I like this. I think that the screen looks pretty good for this price point. You have to remember that this is an entry-level SUV. This is the smallest SUV you can get from Toyota. And so this is going to be the bottom of the barrel in a lot of different ways. And of course, that tiny little screen is one of them. On the steering wheel on the left, I have my volume commands, skip track, phone options, and voice commands. And then on the right, I have my trip, my selectors for that center screen and the gauges we just talked about, lane keep assist, and my front sensor button on and off. The steering wheel looks kind of futuristic, looks very modern, and I definitely like that portion of it. However, I think overall the steering wheel is not much to write home about. To the left of me, I have my automatic high beam button, gas cap release, and gauge dimmer switch. Then on the door, I have my power windows, power locks, and power mirrors. Moving into the center, I do get a very large, or at least large feeling center display that is touchscreen. However, the best part is the fact that this now comes with Apple CarPlay. The 2019 that I drove did not come with Apple CarPlay. Toyota was very, very reluctant to put Apple CarPlay in their vehicles. I don't know if this was a licensing issue or just the company being plain stubborn to the times, but now All Toyota products are offered with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and that is great. The stock Toyota system, it works. I mean, it functions, but I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's a little bit clunky. It looks a little dated, and overall just doesn't really do it for me all that much. One thing in the center display that I do like, though, is that I can keep a track of my eco score, essentially. It gives me my current MPG, elapsed time, range, average speed after start, things like that. And I like that. At least, it gives me some more information right in center on the center screen. Backup camera has okay resolution. It's not the best, it's not the worst, and I do have some backup lines. That red line means I'm going to hit something, which is a nice feature. Down below that center screen, I do have 2 climate control vents, and then my climate controls themselves. They are sort of angled upward and angled towards the driver. I really like that, and the buttons all feel very, very solid when you hit them, especially the temperature and fan speed button. They're these sort of toggle switches, and they feel great. They do feel like this sort of brushed aluminum, even though they're probably just plastic. And they have a nice, solid, more luxurious feel than you would probably expect out of a CHR. Below all of that, I do have 1 USB in, a cup holder, a cubby hole. The shifter, again, has this sort of brushed aluminum look on top, and I absolutely love that. I love the look of it. And the shifter itself feels very solid, and it doesn't feel like it's just plopped in here from all of the other Toyotas, which honestly it probably was, but it doesn't look that way, and I like that a lot. It feels unique, it feels different for the CHR, and it makes me feel like a special, special boy. Down below the shifter, we have the power parking brake, auto holding brake, and traction control off. I love the fact that I get the auto holding brake. One of my favorite features in cars today. This is incredibly helpful with traffic, drive-throughs, parking lots, things like that. And what it is when you're in drive, you can hit the brake a little bit extra hard when you're at a stop, and then you can take your foot off the brake and the car will hold itself. Again, an awesome feature. Then I do have another cup holder at the very top of the center console. I like this because there's one towards the front of the car and one towards the back of the car. This is great because it still gives you 2 cup holders. However, this is a very skinny interior, and so it doesn't take up more space than it needs to. One in front, one in back. Very, very smart. The seats are decently comfortable. They actually have higher bolsters than I would think I would find in a lower tiered SUV. They're comfortable. They are manual. They are not powered. They are not heated. They are not memory, of course. However, I could definitely do a road trip or 2 in these seats and not complain too much. Speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2021 Toyota CHR Nightshade Edition, and a couple interesting things about the back seat. First of all, I will say this feels more roomy than the 2019 that I drove. Does that make sense? No, because they're the exact same cars, but I guess my memory has not served me so well because this is actually a decent back seat. Headroom is pretty good. Leg room, not bad, honestly. I would say probably on par, if not a little bit better than my Mazda 3. I don't get a center console or anything like that, but the interesting thing about these seats is I don't know if it's just because these seats in front of me are so big or what's really happening, but they almost feel like reverse stadium style seating. So stadium style seating, say that 5 times fast, is where the back seats are a little bit higher than the front seats, so you can kind of look like up and over the driver like a stadium. So, you could see a baseball game or something like that. This, I almost feel lower than the front 2 seats. The front 2 seats seem really tall to me, and I sort of sink, down and back into these seats. That could also be because these windows back here are absolutely tiny. At their smallest part, they're that big. These are tiny, tiny windows, and the window line sort of follows your shoulder. So it does feel pretty, I don't want to say claustrophobic back here because I don't currently suffer from that, but I do feel a little claustrophobic-y just because of how tiny these rear windows are. That being said, the back seat is a lot better, like I said, than I remember. We'll take a look at the hatch real quick now. All right, so we're on the back of the 21 CHR. Pop the trunk like that. Nice floor mats from the dealer, but I don't have a 12-volt outlet back here, which is really what I look for when it comes to vehicles like this. However, the space is actually pretty decent. Not too terrible. You do get this sort of floppy cargo cover. It if that's something you want. And then the second row does go down as well. Now we gotta talk about the looks. The look is actually starting to grow on me ever so slightly with the CHR. I hate the front end of it, but I'm not so torn anymore about the back end. I think the back end kind of looks good. And you get those like slim handles on the rear doors, which is pretty cool, pretty neat. However, I think that this does need a refresh pretty desperately. And the reason I say that is because the Highlander, the Venza, and the RAV4s all got refreshes within the last 2 years, and the CHR hasn't. So it now looks ever so slightly dated because the other vehicles have been refreshed. It's like when everyone in the family gets a haircut, but you don't. Well, now you just look like an untamed slob. This is sort of what I feel about the CHR. So hopefully in the next year or two, Toyota will release a refreshed CHR with a little bit better styling because, again, I'm not sold on it. So let's talk about the CHR as a whole. Like I said in the beginning, historically speaking, I have not enjoyed the CHR, and I've actually told people it's not really worth your time. And so I've done a lot of thinking, and while I still believe that this isn't an amazing car, I think part of it is just the fact that I don't really understand why you would seek one of these out. Much like the CX-3 from Mazda, I thought that was way too small, and just there's no need for it. Much like this, I just think it's a little bit too small. I don't know particularly why I would want to seek one of these out as opposed to a Corolla hatch. Yeah, I get the ride height, but that's really the only advantage that this has over the Corolla hatchback. So if you absolutely need ride height, okay, get this, but if that's the only thing that's deterring you from a Corolla, I don't know, I just like and enjoy the Corolla a lot more than this. The Corolla feels like more of a complete car. This feels like, this should be a two-seater, but it's not. And because it has that back seat, I don't know, it gives me this weird feeling. It's like seeing a mail truck at the gas station. I mean, it makes sense on paper, but when you see it, you're just like, oh, yeah, okay. Or have you ever seen a stop sign in the middle of nowhere that definitely doesn't belong? But again, there's no reason to like write to your government official about it, but it just kind of makes you say, that's how I feel about the CHR. It's not a terrible car. It's not a good car. It's not a terrible car. It's just this weird middle ground of a vehicle. And so please, I love talking to you guys. I love the comments. And so please, 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 if you are interested in a CHR or if you own a CHR, please tell me why you bought that or are looking to buy that over a Corolla. Besides ride height, you can't use the excuse of ride height. Please let me know what the difference between this and a Corolla is besides ride height, and I will give you a free pass. If you are elderly or if you have bad knees or if you've gone through a surgery or some type of movement issue, I get that. Getting down into a Corolla is a lot harder than getting into this because it's more of like a level get over than like get down, if that makes sense. I understand that. But again, I hold true the fact that this is really just a lifted Corolla. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota Naperville for allowing me to take out their brand spanking new Toyota CHR. They have a couple of these on the lot, so definitely reach out to them if you are interested. Their information is up on the screen as well as linked in the description below. If Toyotas are not your thing, they have tons and tons of used cars on the lot as well. I've been driving Audis from them, and today I did a Mercury and a Volkswagen, and I've done Jeeps in the past, and anything you can think of. They have tons and tons of cars on their lot at all times, and I'm pretty sure they'll find a car that will make you happy. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.